Wednesday, the 20th of March, 2024, first day of spring, if my math is correct. Thank you for tuning in to the intelligence briefing from Protesta.com. After a long hiatus, at least a week or two, so I've been not doing intelligence briefings. We are back in the saddle again, bringing you the latest headlines in Christian polemics and discernment news. Follow Protesta.com everywhere you find us to keep up with the latest. Let's get into the headlines. First headline at Protesta.com. Woke pastors claim that God the Father worships us. Yeah, that's not worships US, but worships us, you and me. Jermel Witherspoon and Royce Yoon are the pastors of Common Good Church in Bellevue, Washington. 1-2 punch combination of Christ-hating heretics, if there ever was one. 4 years ago, Yoon preached a message titled Isms, Heterosexism, which argued Christians need to shift their understanding of what the Bible says about queer affirmation. Their church swiftly did that very thing, coming to fully affirm and celebrate our LGBTQ blah, 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 blah siblings, and believe that everyone, no matter their sexual orientation, gender identity, or marital status, belongs here and can share in the worship, rites, sacraments, memberships, and leadership of this church. 4 months ago, Witherspoon and company gave us a peek at the state of their hearts, revealing that the affirming to pagan pipeline remains as true as ever. In the sermon, the pastors claim that God the Father loves us so much he worships us. This is a YouTube video by Woke Preacher Clips. Let's listen in.
We happen to be talking about this beautiful work that is worship, this beautiful relationship that is worship between us and the divine, this beautiful way of mutual adoration between us and us.
That's awful.
Right? This way of being with people that changes us and being with the divine essence as she changes us.
Yeah, like whatever it is, right? Just some spirituality we make up in our own minds. The God of our own invention, our own creation, which, of course, as we all know, means we're worshiping ourselves if we think that way.
What if God worships me? Can you say that?
Then you're a heretic. If you say something like that, you even think something like that, you're probably a heretic. In this case, you're saying it and teaching it, you're definitely a heretic.
With me, what if God worships me?
Believing that sends you to hell.
Because it can feel a little uncomfortable, right? Especially when we don't really understand and live into who God has called us to be and what God is to us and has called us to be to God. A God who worships me is quite the statement. I know, but follow me. Now, I get it. We've started to worship a very big heteronormative white Jesus that we constantly thank for standing between us and a mean God. But really, who, what, when, and why? Worship has become so God-centered.
Worship has become so. Yeah, it wasn't actually that way at first. I mean, it certainly churches didn't start that way, worshiping God. We made it. We made it about Him. How dare us?
And it risks the subjective colliding of our own things, our biases, etc., and often takes from the purity of God's mutual affection for us.
It ain't mutual, folks.
Sometimes we have this wall up that's just between me and God, but if God does not show us how to be with our neighbor, then where is God? Because worship is...
That was absolutely nonsensical. Doesn't even make sense. It's not just false, it doesn't even make sense.
Less for God, I believe, and more for us.
Yeah, more for us, yep.
Intimacy. What if worship is us on the mountain of Transfiguration? This space where God spoke, that God was well pleased. This place where God spoke about God's Son in such a way that the light shone on him and God looked and said, wow, oh, how I worship him. The beauty of what I've created.
Okay. All right. You can go watch more of this at Protesta.com, but suffice it to say, It's every bit as horrible, and probably more horrible than I even thought it was going to be before I pressed play. Next headline at Protestia, charismatic rock star Heidi Baker says she loves to smell lepers and kiss their toes. Because why wouldn't she say something like that? Heidi Baker is a rock star in the charismatic movement and a very busy lady. She's the founder and president of Iris Global and Roland and Heidi Baker Ministries, and is a missionary partnered with and sent out by Bill Johnson and Bethel Church. Shocking, of course. She's the global leader of Empowered 21, as well as the co-founder of the Revival Alliance Network. Notably, the Revival Alliance Network was formed around Easter 2006 in response to a prophetic assignment from Bob Jones. By the way, we're going to be talking about, I'm going to chase a rabbit here for a second because it's been a little while since I've been with you. We are going to be probably bringing Bob Jones a bit into the conversation with some of the next Protestia Tonight material that we are working on, specifically with regard to the charismatic movement and two of its most well-known and chiefest apologists, Michael Brown and Sam Storms. And we're going to explain to you why charismaticism, as expressed even by the quote-unquote respectables in the movement, is postmodern and subjective to the core. We're going to dig into that a little bit. And the reason that I came upon that here reading this article is because Bob Jones, they all come out of the same movement, same idea. They're all buddies. They all know one another, and we'll hopefully be able to flesh out some of those connections for you if you don't know. So, Che An explains, charter member Che An of the Revival Alliance Network, I believe. It's either that or Empower 21. I don't remember. Pretty sure it's Che An is with the Revival Alliance Network, but says in 2005, Bob Jones prophesied to Heidi, of course, you couldn't just come up with something here, prophesied to Heidi and Roland Baker to form a new network that would be the container for the 1 billion souls coming in. He named John and Carol Arnott, Bill and Benny Johnson, Randy and Deanne Clark, along with Sue and me among those to be involved. Baker is also about as crazy as a rat in a coffee can, has terrible theology, despite what Remnant Radio guys say about her. And the Remnant Radio guys are another group of charismatic apologists we haven't really addressed, but you'll get the point as we dig into the issue, I'm sure. Let's listen to what Heidi Baker has to say here.
I love kissing lepers. I'm always after the toes. We're just so we put God in a box. And then if we're charismatic, we put him in a bigger box. And then if we're really, wow, Holy Spirit river people, we put him in a bigger box. He doesn't want a box. He's God. He'll have no box. You just need to position yourself to do what he says and go where he goes and listen. The next room he took me in, full of body parts, went in there. Whoa, it was a weird room. Eyeballs blinking at me, ears and eyeballs and livers and spleens and toes.
What?
I love kissing lepers. I'm always after the toes, the fingers. I kiss them. I do. This is not a vision. This is my world. I find lepers. When I smell a leper, I'm like, yes. Shaka Baba. Oh, I've seen so many lepers healed. So many lepers healed. I've seen them healed. And I'm just contending for their little fingers to grow out.
This is the kind of nonsense, by the way, that charismatics accept and they believe in, and they have no framework. They have no epistemological standard by which they could ever say something like this is wrong or something like this doesn't belong in a church. And yet still believe that God is speaking new revelation through supposed prophets and apostles and things like that today. They have no framework for which to say something like this is crazy. In fact, some of them probably wouldn't say this is crazy. They'd say, no, this is just fine. It's just fine. Now I'm going to go off and pray in my own private prayer language, by the way. That they have no framework for which they could say this is not okay. And then at the same time, say that this other stuff is the supposed proper use of the continuation of the sign gifts. There's no standard for which one is right and the other is wrong because they ain't the Bible. in the end, it just boils down to what are their personal preferences. And so something like this, where Heidi Baker's running around and saying that I love to kiss the toes of leopards, and I walk lepers and leopards, could be leopards or lepers probably. I mean, there's no standard by which we would say either one of those is incorrect. And then go into a room full of body parts. Yeah, I mean, they would have to just retreat to the, well, we can't judge, we just don't know. We'll dig into that later for sure. Go over to Protesta.com to see the rest of this, or head over to Protestia's X account. This was posted yesterday. Super weird video for sure. Next headline at Protestia: Transformation Church. It says controversial Easter play Ransom is returning this year, but will not be live streamed. I find Michael Todd making sure not to provide, a week's worth of fodder for Protestia's X account in crazy nonsense. Pastor Michael Todd leads Transformation Church. He is known for crowd surfing during his church worship service, preaching some good old-fashioned modalism, giving the world perhaps the grossest illustration after he snorted and then hawked a loogie full of spit, rubbed it in another man's face twice, claiming his church had 75,000 salvations in the last 18 months, even though none of them stuck around, apparently. Had a service where ballet dancers were dancing around with bare rear ends, danced around the stage, preached in a shirt featuring his wife in a bathing suit, claimed that Jesus never reached his potential, so on and so forth. His quote-unquote church is a clown show. It's a circus. It's a mockery of everything that church is supposed to be and the gathered worship of God is supposed to be. I guess they're going to do the same thing that they did last year. This was we posted this last year, April 10th, 2023. They're going to do the same thing or a similar thing or a version of it, but they're not going to stream it online. I guess so guys like us can't come along and see what they're doing. Shocking. Go read more about this at Protestia.com and see more links about why Michael Todd and Transformation Church are very firmly in mark and avoid territory. Next headline at Protestia: Presbyterian denomination considers barring ordination of clergy who aren't LGBTQ affirming and make it non-negotiable. The scant number of remnant congregations within the PCUSA may soon dip even further after it was revealed the damnable denomination is taking up the legislation this summer in Salt Lake City at its upcoming 226th General Assembly that would prohibit the ordination of clergy candidates who aren't affirming of what the Bible very clearly indicates God hates. It's the natural progression for them. The PCUSA, which has denigrated into one massive pen of goats run by spiritual criminals and hirelings. We have links in here to talk about this, and then the a quote from the overture that they are planning on bringing up. It would alter the two sections of their Book of Order and add underlying sections which talk about they add gender identity and sexual orientation to sex. Read more about this at Protestia.com, but suffice to say, PCUSA is, it's beyond words how far from anything resembling a true church they have gone. Last headline for this intelligence briefing: Church, of course, Church Crucifies and Resurrects 1960s Batman for Easter play. Church of the Rock in Winnipeg. Why am I not surprised that it's them? This is the Iron Man church. They crucified Iron Man. They crucified Buzz Lightyear. They crucified Simba, the lion cub, adult lion from Disney's The Lion King. And now they're going to crucify not Christian Bale Batman or even Michael Keaton Batman. They're going to crucify Adam West Batman. Church of the Rock, Winnipeg, led by Pastor Mark Hughes, known for its unique Easter sermons interpreting the death, burial, and resurrection of the Lord of Glory as Hollywood blockbusters ranging from Monty Python and the Holy Grail to Toy Story, Star Wars, Tombstone, Indiana Jones, so on and so forth. We last covered them after they crucified Iron Man. And here is a clip of them crucifying Batman, apparently.
Riddle me this. What's on the outside that's supposed to be on the inside?
I don't know what.
Batman's underwear. Fire in the mountain, run, boys, run. Devil's in the house with the rising sun. Chicken in the bread pan, picking out dough. Granny lets the dog bite, no child knows. Hey!
That's actually pretty good. That fiddling isn't too bad. That is, of course, Charlie Daniels' classic, The Devil Went Down to Georgia. Apparently sung by Robin. I don't know. Suffice to say, this is not a church. It's yet another clown show, yet another circus, and would be comical, quite possibly entertaining if it wasn't happening in place of gathered worship at a church, and wasn't as deceptive in saying that's what we're doing here before we're going to apparently crucify Batman. Maybe it's coming here. I got to watch this a little bit more.
Robin, a sinner she may be, but unattractive she's not. You'll know more about that in a couple years, old chum.
No. He did not say you'll know more about that in a couple years. That's funny. I hate to say that's funny, with deference to our lovable staff writer who is himself Canadian. That's pretty funny. They got a boot Batman up there talking about, I guess, Catwoman. Let's see if they're going to put him on here. I'm going to fast forward a little bit and find out. By the way, if you want to say the whole thing that we put up there, head over to Protestia.com or Protestia on X, formerly known as Twitter. But let's watch this last little bit here.
Could this be it for the Cape Crusader? Has he had his bat cooked for the last time? Will the Joker rule Gotham for all eternity and leave the people in a state of chaos and despair? Stay tuned. Same bat time, same bat channel.
So, that's heretical. That's just plain heresy. And a very clear Second Commandment violation. And to make a comical, farcical mockery out of the crucifixion of Jesus is, none of you should ever be in ministry ever again. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Intelligence Briefing for Wednesday, the 20th of March, 2024. Stay tuned to Protestia.com for all of your latest in Christian polemics and discernment news. We'll see you again next time. As always, Semper Reformanda.